Small little view of him. He's feeding on the tiny little bit that remains, which is mainly the head and neck of this male duiker. It's a fully grown adult. As you can see, a very small adult. Wow, look at his claws there. What an awesome view this is. Absolutely awesome. In all likelihood been feeding on the ground, where it's a lot easier for them and more comfortable. So there's a clever hyena waiting patiently for that head of the duiker to drop and win, and if it does, we're going to see some action. So be ready with your screenshots, and Andrew, be ready for action. So that is something that could happen at any moment now.
Everybody happy with it? Fantastic. Can I make those spaces and other guys can have a look?
Louis, what do you need me to do? Are you...
I'm gonna go forward there and then go there, and then you need to go forward.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Sounds like a good plan. So Louis making his way out of the sighting, and it's just going to require a little bit of jiggling and weaving between all the different vehicles. So that's something that we're going to have to do shortly. And the reason why I think it's a female is because of her size. She looks absolutely flawless. And what it might do is actually slink below the tree to see if any small bits of bone have dropped down that it can nibble on in the meantime. I'm just going to reposition quickly, and that way Jason, who's parked behind us, can also get a better view. So hold on everyone, 1 second.
And a third intruder in their territory. But a beautifully spectacular sky. Hasn't been quite as stormy as I expected it to be. I haven't heard any rumbles of thunder yet. I'm not sure if it's on its way or not. Yeah, the crested barbet trilling off in the distance. I can't see where it is, but that's the trill you can hear. Look at that skyline. Beautiful. Anyway, as you can tell, we've left the lions for the time being, and we're going to carry on looking for other things, but never fear, we will be back to the buffalo carcass later to see if there's any action with those hyena. I think they're going to be around tonight. I'm keeping fingers crossed because we keep saying that, and so far they've avoided the area, but they must know by now. If I can smell them from 400 meters away, then we can definitely, the hyenas could definitely smell them from wherever they are on Junior. Sorry, on Djuma, not Junior. got Junior on the brain now after that question. Anyway, we're going to continue on whilst we try and get Scott's signal to stabilize. And let's see what else we can find in this area. My plan is to head across to Buffelshoek Dam and see if we can find any sign of Karula or that secret male leopard that we've only ever seen, or one of the presenters, Brent, has only ever seen it once. The rest of us have never seen him. And that one of the Buffelshoek landowners has nicknamed Djuma, which means run, because he's very, very... Oh, there's our barbet. There's our trilling barbet. Fun fact that I learnt, I have mentioned before on the live safaris, but for anyone tuning in for the first time, can you see his crest blowing there in the wind? If that troll seems to last longer than he seems to have air for, that's because he's capable of blowing out through one side to create that troll and breathing in at the same time. It's called circular breathing, and I know that didgeridoo players are capable of doing it, and I do know some flute players who are capable of doing it as well. It's a skill I tried to teach myself and failed dismally, but the crested barbet has it down to an art. Look at him go. I definitely couldn't trill for that long. Very beautiful bird. Probably a male, but it could well be a female as well. Both the males and the females will call like that. And at breeding season, this is where we hear it quite frequently. And they're cheeky little buggers. They come through into gardens and they jump onto kitchen tables. We've got one that lives at the DRC where most of the camp lives, and he comes and he jumps on the kitchen table and steals whatever scraps of crumbs he can find and chases away all the other birds. Very bold little birds for their size. Here we go. There's our little crested barbet. Let us continue on our way. Can't wait until the summer rains really come. We get to see if this Mwati flows this year. It'll be beautiful to see. We're heading up central to see if we can find anything around Buffelshoek. I know that there were also some ellies moving south from Tambuti Dam, which is in Buffelshoek, when I was on the sunrise safari. They might have headed down into this area already. I'm very keen to see, first of all, if the hippo is still in the dam. And whilst I make my way there and past the buffalo carcass, which I can smell in that sort of general vicinity, I believe Scott is back up and running and he has repositioned back with those leopards. So let's head across to him and I will catch up with you a little bit later.
Blinking. We're live. Welcome back, everyone. And I've just got a WhatsApp notification telling me that we are live, so it's good to have you back. And sorry about the loss of signal earlier as we moved a few meters, but we have got into a great spot here. The wonderful view of the hyena and the mother that you saw initially, and Sindile hasn't moved yet. Still up in the fork of this marula tree. I wonder how much longer he's going to be able to hang on to that skull before it hits the ground. We're in for some awesome action when that does happen. I'm sure what will happen is that the hyena will run in very quickly, latch onto it, and that will be that. But there is a chance that Shadow, the mother, may jump down and try and rescue whatever remains do drop to the ground. So it'll be interesting to see nonetheless, whatever happens. And got a comment through from Pam Korn, and she's obviously been following the show very closely because she's mentioned that I finally got the leopard in the tree. It's been something I've been speaking about for a long time now and hoping to share with you, and now we've really hit the jackpot because not one but two leopards in the tree at the same time. And on the same topic, Marlon Oppenheim has pointed out a very good point, and that is that she has come to Africa 3 times before seeing a leopard in a tree. So that if this is your first live safari, you've got off to a great start, but don't expect this every day. This is a treat. And the tree that Andrew's busy taking you on a tour of on his way to the mother is a marula tree, which is the most common tree that we find leopard in here. She's repositioned so slightly. She doesn't look extremely comfortable at the moment. She's lying side saddle. Oh, the hyena's on the move. Well spotted, Andrew. Look at how close it is to Shadow. Awesome. And again, it's just slinking around looking for any tidbits. Any little shards of bone or pieces of meat that Sindile may be dropping as he feeds. Looks like it found something very small there to nibble on. And Dr. Debbie is watching with her son Alex, and he would like to know, how much do these leopard weigh? It's a tricky question to answer accurately, Alex. I'm guessing the female's around 50 kilos, which is around 100 pounds, just over that. It may be slightly lighter. Look at how awesome this shot is. 2 of the apex predators from this area, just meters from one another, the one fast asleep in the comfort of the tree, and the other one waiting patiently below for any little scraps. Back to Alex and Dr. Debbie though. I'm guessing that Sindile, this young male, is probably a little bit heavier than his mother now, so if his mother is in fact 50 kilograms roughly, he's probably just over that, possibly 55. I've never seen a leopard that has been darted or sounds. It doesn't happen very often, and that's probably because there's such a high density of leopards that the hyena have learned over time that leopards are a better option. I believe you lost my picture, but I've just been saying you disappeared. But we're going as far as Dr. Debbie and Alex. Although I'm told now the audio is too bad, so I'm just going to sit back, relax, and take some pictures. Okay, this is
Oh, yeah.
Ah, yeah,
Welcome back, and we do apologize once again for the problems with Scott's signal. There seems to be something playing up when he's all the way in Arethusa. Now you might be wondering why I've stopped, and we've spotted some tall creatures that are rather good at hiding. Here we go, she's just popping into view now. It's funny, I went days before I saw my first giraffe in Djuma, and all of a sudden they're back again. Got to see lots of them. A very dark coloured female. There is a male further back, but he's very far in. You can see how thick that block is. And unfortunately, that's probably the best view we're going to get of them, because if I try and go in any further, they're just going to move away from us. I'm sure I just heard a barred owlet as well. Listening intently. Oh well, I think he's gone silent for now. Let's carry on with our mission off to Buffelshoek Dam and see what else we find along the way. Clouds are slowly advancing upon us. I wonder if we're not going to get a late night thunderstorm. That would be very cool. When you look down over the side of your vehicle and you see giant hippo tracks, it always astounds me the distance that they'll walk during the night and the distance they'll cover to come graze in these nice open areas with the fresh green grass. Definitely been moving through this area. On the Game Drive channel and ask Andrew if he knows which lionesses are mating with those Birmingham boys. Maybe we can get some clarification on the issue. Let me try now and see what he has to say. Andrew for Jamie. Andrew for Jamie. Yeah, sorry Andrew, I was just wondering, do you know which Ngala are mating with those Birmingham boys, which females there are? Copy that, thank you very much. And you see, this is why I wasn't too certain about giving you a definite update, because Andrew says for sure it's an Nkahuma lioness that's mating with the Birmingham boys. They were on Chitwa. They've now moved south of that onto the property that's just south, which is a Nets. They're around there. So as you can tell, there's a little bit of confusion as to which lionesses are mating. Going to be the clearest view. No, little one, stay there. Oh, going to duck into the drainage line. Oops, sorry. Just a nice little family of Inyala in there. There's one playing peekaboo there in the middle. I think they might be getting ready to hide themselves away from the possibility of an approaching storm. Here we go. Out into the open. Just look at the way that they navigate around this thick vegetation. And you never really see them looking down unless they're going to feed. Their eyes are always up, yet somehow they've just got it perfected to an art. You can see how dense it is in there. They never seem to trip over or fall over. It does happen. We see animals with broken legs that most likely come from them falling over, but for the most part, now imagine doing a mad dash through there to try and run away from a predator. Their level of, I suppose their sort of level of, what's the word, peripheral vision must be quite incredible, especially considering they have a blind spot in front of their nose, and yet somehow they manage to duck and dive all of those obstacles. And very soon those kind of sightings will be completely hidden from us, completely hidden from view. With summer coming and the rains falling, it's going to get really, really dense in there. Let's continue on our mission to Buffelshoek Dam. Lots of general game out and about. Still got that intense humid feeling this afternoon. And it's when the winds start to hit that you know you're right about to be hit by some kind of storm or the possibility of rain. Really joyful moments. Obviously not with the camera equipment on the back. We have to be extra specially careful with the rain. We've got our big plastic rain cover and blankets to cover the camera, so we've sort of set up for covering up for that. But I've had a lot of moments during summer when I've been out in the car with volunteers and guests, and we've had to do a mad drive back to camp, and at that point you get to the point where there's no point in trying to race home, because first of all you can't see, the rain's just driving into your face, but you're also getting you're drenched. There's nothing you can do. You just might as well continue sedately on your way to get back to camp. But we've had tremendous fun in the rain before. Also had it happen a couple of times when we've been out and about on foot and got absolutely drenched and had to do a mad sprint back to the vehicle. Just coming up to Guari Pan. Hard to believe that a couple of months ago we had all 8 Nkuhumas here on a buffalo kill, and all seemed to be right with the world. Amazing how things have changed. Just all sort of lying around here. There's no sign of a buffalo carcass. I think it was dragged into the drainage line quite early on by hyenas. But hard to believe. Who would have thought the chaos that we were going to bear witness to only a couple of weeks later? glimpse of those giraffe in the bushes earlier, and we had at the very start of the sunset safari, we had the giraffe moving through. And Diana, who comes to us all the way from Lancashire, which is one of my favourite places in the UK. A very good friend of mine lived there or grew up there, and I used to go and visit on my university holidays. We'd go and stay in Hindley, which is close to Wigan. And Diana would like to know how it is that giraffe communicate with each other. Is it through sound or is it through visual communication? And that's really interesting. It's something I touched upon at the start of the sunrise safari this morning, or at least my start of the sunrise safari, when we had the giraffe. And I know that the wonderful Hayden Turner posted an article, or shared an article about the secrets of giraffe communication. I haven't yet had a chance to read up on it. I was occupied elsewhere this afternoon. But it was very interesting from what I could garner from a brief glimpse. There's so much research that's been done into the way that elephants communicate with each other, and we've got we're only just starting to get a grasp on the way that giraffes communicate. Yes, a lot of it will be visual. Definitely, no question about that. So much of animal communication is based on the most subtle of movement. It's either their ears or their tail or their body posture, the way that they are holding themselves. That communicates a world of information to the animals that they're seeing, or the animals that they're communicating with. I have never heard a giraffe make a sound, and I always thought that they couldn't, but it seems to be the case that they can. And I'll have to do a little bit more research on the subject, Diana, and get back to you. But I think it's probably a combination of the two. And we mustn't forget the other system of communication that we are completely blind to in a sensory way, and that of course is their sense of smell, and what it is they're learning about each other just from a casual sniff of the air. Definitely not something to be discounted. And I'm sure that as the years progress and we study more in depth, we're going to learn a lot more about the way that it works. Hello, little Deka. I thought you were a leopard. Is that okay there, wildebeest? Ooh. Look at its tiny little horns. Cute. Oh no, is that horns or is that it is horns. It's a young male just starting to grow the stumps of horns there on either side of that wonderful little mohawk that Deka have. And look how distinctive that black stripe. Oh, gone. Do you know what startled him? Sorry, wildebeest, do you think we can go back there to what gave him a fright? Because it's quite hilarious. That's what gave him the fright. He was watching us so intently that the sudden arrival of a squirrel on the branch is what caused him to jump away like that. That was highly entertaining. Cute. Very cute young male. Ooh. Here he goes. Getting away from that terrifying fluffy... Oh, what you up to, mister? You can't quite decide which way you want to run. Watch out, there's squirrels in there. Be careful. Very, very cute. And that young male, as far as I can tell, is probably just over a year old, just starting to head out and compete for his own territory. Their horns only grow a little bit. His horns were probably only about that big, so he's still very, very young. But we're almost at Buffelshoek Dam, so let's see what we can find there. away. He's not going to stay on the ground if we make an approach. But that is interesting, because I would not be at all surprised if that fish eagle was the third one that we saw a little bit earlier. Now, it's not often you see them down on the ground like that, and it's usually when they have caught something. He doesn't look like he's got anything. It's hard to tell from this distance. I'm not sure. Can you guys see anything? I don't think I can. I wonder what he's up to. Now, I do know that as soon as we start to creep forward, he's probably going to fly up. I wonder what he's up to. Let's see if we can sneak forward and figure it out. Shifting the car into low range, so see if we can idle slowly forward. Still there. Oh, that's beautiful. Look how beautiful Buffelshoek Hook Dam is looking. Really stunning light. Our fish eagle friend is stuck around for us. Could just be resting, looking for fishing opportunities. Maybe Buffelshoek Hook Dam is a little bit harder work than Djuma Dam, especially since Djuma Dam is so low that scooping up catfish is like catching fish in a barrel. Maybe that's why he made a exploratory mission into other fish eagles' territory. Could well be him. I would not be at all surprised. And if we can just have a look at the other bird who is standing in the Buffelshoek Hook Dam. It's a first for me at this dam. There you go, that heron over there. Looks to me like a purple heron. Just going to double check myself, but I think that's what we've got here. Beautiful bird. One of the bigger species of heron. Yes, I'm sure that is a purple heron. Nice to see. Definitely think it's a first. And maybe one for some of you to add to your bird list. Oh! Let's try and get in there. There goes the lapwing. At Blacksmith Lapwing is trying to defend its nest site against the fish eagle. So thought about mobbing him. It's obviously decided to think twice. I know that Brent spotted them building a nest on that side of the dam. Around there. And it's not impossible, although there goes the fish eagle. Doesn't have anything in its talons. Up onto the tree. I think he's decided that that's a more suitable vantage point. Oh, hello, waterbuck. Didn't even see that male coming down. It's all happening at Buffelshoek Hook Dam. beautiful fish eagle. We saw it soaring across there. And they are one of our bigger eagle species, or they're not quite true eagles. They're defined as fish eagles because they don't have feathers all the way down to their feet. But it is one of our bigger birds that we get out here, especially around these dams. I'll shift back a little bit so that wildebeest can get these waterbuck without our aerial in it. Give me one moment. They are all drinking beautifully there. Is that okay? You're good there, Wildy. Having a drink. You can see how cautiously they approach. Always checking around the area. A waterhole is of course a perfect ambush site. But anyway, we had a question that came through about our soaring fish eagle. And Cecilia, you were wondering what the wingspan is of a full-grown adult fish eagle. The answer is just a shade under 2 meters, which is about 6 feet, so just under 6 feet from tip to tip. Definitely one of the bigger birds. And just to give you an idea, something like a martial eagle reaches all the way up from that about the same size as a fish eagle to up to 2.4 meters, whereas our little Wahlbergs come in much smaller. So those cute Wahlbergs we see are at about 1.4 meters. Oh, what you doing there? A little bit of affection almost, maybe, between the waterbuck. I think that male's going around and just having a test to see if any of his ladies are coming into estrus. Might even see him phlegm and grimace there. Nope, obviously her smell is not that interesting. He's still having a sniff though. He's also taking the opportunity to pass on his scent onto her by rubbing with those glands close to the eye, the preorbital glands. Oh, we even gave it a go. That didn't look very successful though. Let's see if we can see how the situation plays out. Here's our waterbuck ram, who definitely has things on his mind other than drinking. No, I think he might be done for the day. What a nice shot of those wonderful waterbuck rings around their bottoms. The female's not having any of it though. Not interested. Let me just shuffle forward slightly since we are on quite the slope, so that Jigga doesn't have to groan away. Let's see if we can get one last view of our retreating waterbuck as they disappear. they go. And carrying with them, whilst we're sitting here, that very, very distinctive waterbuck scent. And I'm trying to think of a way of describing it to you. It's quite a musky scent. It's not unpleasant, and it's very, very clearly waterbuck. I've often smelt waterbuck before I've seen them. And it's all connected to the same comment that Donna made, which is the fact that waterbuck almost look as though they could live up in a colder climate. Somewhere, say, in North America or in Europe. They're just so fluffy and warm looking and insulated looking. And the reason I say that's connected with their smell is because, as their name suggests, they spend a lot of time in water. You don't often see it here. It's not the right sort of habitat to see them. But when you go to the rivers or visit the rivers around Kruger, you definitely see them spending a lot of time splashing about in the river. That's what they're perfectly adapted to, hence that thick coat. But of course, if you have a thick coat and it's waterlogged, you're going to be even colder than if you didn't have it. And that is where that smell comes from. They're coated in a special oil that helps to waterproof their thick, thick fur and keeps them insulated. But yes, absolutely, they do look as though they are adapted for colder climates. In this particular case, it looks as though the colder climate might be coming to them. The clouds have got very, very heavy. I can't, my memory, get the name of these clouds. I cannot remember them for the life of me. It's the special name for the patchy, bumpy clouds that we're getting. The mantis clouds. Thank you, wildebeest. There we go. We've got an answer there from mantis clouds, or what we're looking at. And they come bearing the promise of rain at a later stage. So we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. I believe their name comes from the same Latin root as mammals and mammary glands, due to the resemblance that they have with those milk-bearing organs. Well, we're approaching the darkness, and I think it might be time to loop back towards where we left those rather full-looking lionesses and see if there's any action around there. I still think it's entirely possible that we're going to get some interaction there between hyenas and those lions. It's about time that those hyenas showed up and finished off the carcass, because those two lionesses on their own still have a lot to work through. Well, that was cool. Buffelshoek Dam proved to be quite the pumping waterhole this evening. What with that fish eagle and that purple heron, which was a first for me, but apparently was a first for Raisos all the way in Finland, and who's definitely one of our more regular viewers. So guys, if you're keeping your bird list, you can add a purple heron to the mix. That is very, very exciting news. It was definitely a first for me. I thought maybe it was a regular visitor that I'd just missed, but it's interesting to hear that it's a first for Raisa. Definitely one of the prettier bird species, and since it is new, I'm just going to take the moment to give you a little bit, because it's quite dark and it was quite far away. Let me show you exactly what it was that you were looking at. Hold on a moment. Nope, those are the little herons. Still the little herons. Still little herons. There we go. Quite a well-thumbed page on my book. And there you go. That's what we were looking at earlier. The only other one you could confuse it with maybe is the Goliath heron, but it's much, much smaller. And there you can see those the dark crown and the dark stripes that run down it. And that's actually what really alerted me that it was a purple heron, with this sort of the barring along the chest there and down the neck. Very pretty little bird. So that is what we were looking at. Cool. Just a quick picture so you could see it up close, and the nice drawing to show you some of the more intricate details. And next time then you'll be able to recognize the bird yourself. And I think I'm going to start in future testing you all on the birds that we are seeing, because a lot of you are becoming experts in your field. Something is flowering somewhere. I just got the most beautiful whiff of, it almost smelled like jasmine. There's nothing out here that resembles wild jasmine. Might have been a tree wisteria that also carries a lovely scent. The smell's gone now. I'll have to keep an eye out for it. Definitely makes a nice change from buffalo. A quick whiff of sweet pollen before we continue back to our carcass. Now, of course, I've yet to experience Djuma in the real rainy season. Had a couple of rains, but nothing too major. But I'm already starting to take note of some of the roads that I think are going to be a bit of a struggle to drive when they do turn to mud, and this is one of them. It's already getting dark. Here comes the wind that I mentioned earlier. Never fear, I think it's going to hold off until the end of the sunset safari. Now the quickest road to the lions is Nyala Road North, but that's a bit of a signal black hole, so we'll have to take the left-hand route. But last time I went down here we saw Karula at the end of the sunrise safari, so you just never know. And it's amazing how often when you've had a sighting of an animal you continue to look for them in the exact same place, even though you know that's completely irrational and they have legs, so they do move. And they could be anywhere by now, but it still happens to me. I still do it all the time, and I know I'm not the only one. Now we've just come from Buffelshoek Dam, and Laura in Happy Valley, you've been watching since 2014, so a year of viewing, and you were wondering why it is that we never see something like a mongoose or a smaller animal drinking from the dam. For the most part, mongoose can be quite water independent, much like their cousins, the meerkats or the suricats. They're quite well adapted to getting the moisture that they need out of their food. That being said, that does not mean that they won't drink from dams or drink regularly if there are puddles around them. I think that they might be wary of approaching large dams, especially with a big open space. You know, whenever we've seen the mongoose, they've always had a nice termite mound escape route to go to, or a fallen tree or a patch of grass, somewhere that they know they can duck into. Now bear in mind, having just seen that fish eagle over there, There are so many threats out there if you're a little mongoose that going to a waterhole is a very risky business, and although they will do it, it's not like termites build their tunnels around dam sites, so there's just nowhere safe for them to go. Whereas in summer, when there's puddles everywhere, then they'll go and drink when and wherever they want to, and they still have that perfect protection and cover. So I think for them it's quite a risky business, and that's probably why we haven't really managed to catch them drinking at the dam. It's not to say that they don't, but for the most part I think they try and avoid it whenever they can. And the biggest risk for them was, of course, an eagle swooping down. The minute they see them in a nice open place like that, it becomes easy pickings. Elephant roadblock, not quite roadblock, just half roadblock. Up a little bit. We've still got a bit of distance to cover before we get back to those lions. I'm sure that you're wondering what Scott's been up to, Shane, with all of the signal problems that he's been struggling with. But he was still with the Leopards when we last saw him. Let's see what he's been up to since then, since his picture is back up and running. I'm going to speed up on my way to the lions, and I will catch up with you a little bit later.
Welcome back, everyone. And sadly, due to the bad signal in that area of coupled with the fact that the other vehicles wanted to get a piece of that action, we decided to move out of the area and head back towards Djuma. I told you I had a beautiful sighting up at Buffelshoek Waterhole with Jamie and some waterbuck. So happy to hear you've been having a good safari with her. And who knows what will happen next this evening. There's still quite a bit of time left, and hoping to find you some more interesting critters or things to talk about. There haven't been too many updates on the Arethusa radio that I've heard. And that's why I've decided to head back to Djuma. Some more familiar territory with slightly better radio comms with the other guides, and I hope that we might find you something interesting snooping around over there. Dark enough for the spotlight yet, but I'm just going to get it ready for action. I'm not too sure what Jamie's plans are for the rest of the evening. I'm guessing she might be going back to the line, but I will get a hold of her shortly on the Game Drive channel. While we head deeper into Djuma, we can still field a few more questions that you guys sadly couldn't get through to me due to the bad signal where I was. And Elizabeth in Canada would like to know how many meters up in that marula tree did I think Sindino was perched chewing on that duiker. I would guess 5 to 6 meters. Andrew, not too sure, what do you think?
Yeah, about 6-ish, eh?
Yeah, so 5-6 meters. What I use for measuring height is, imagine doors which are usually 2 meters in height. This is your standard door into a home or into anywhere really, and just multiply that average height, and it was about 2.5 to 3 doors high, so 5 to 6 meters. Typically they don't go much higher up into the trees in this area, because thankfully for them the marula trees aren't too high, but in other parts of Africa where the animals are not lucky enough to have the marula trees, I've seen pictures of leopards up to 10 meters high, and I've also seen an absolutely incredible clip of a leopard jumping from, I think, 10 meters up straight down onto an impala feeding below it. It's an incredible video, and there was also quite a few great photographs that were captured in that same sequence. And interestingly enough, the leopard jumped head first straight down from that height, so it was head, body and then tail dangling in the air, heading straight down towards the impala, and just before it hit the ground, or hit the impala rather, it managed to flare itself out horizontally and land straight on the back of the impala, which obviously got the fright of its life, as did all the impala around it. And the leopard then managed to get onto a chokehold and suffocate it and drag it off into the bush. And it has been captured on a number of different occasions, leopards jumping out of trees onto prey. I've never ever seen it, or even been close to seeing it happen. But one day maybe we'll get lucky. It has been documented here in the Sabi Sands. And imagine how lucky that leopard must think it is the day impala walk below the tree that it's sleeping in, or any prey item for that matter. Speaking of jumping out of trees, Carol on Twitter is interested to know, why did Shadow not jump out of the tree and attack that hyena? Well, the hyena's probably bigger than her, is the first reason. And why take the risk of getting into a fight over nothing really? The kill was up the tree, there was nothing to lose, even if they dropped the kill. That tiny little remaining skull, they had fed on the majority of it. And even further, even if it was an entire fresh kill that had not been fed on not even one morsel by the leopards, it would still make sense to rather try and catch another prey item than risk running any injury. An injury, Archer, can be fatal for the animals. So that's why they will tend to avoid confrontation at all costs, unless really their life or maybe their cub's life depends on it. So she certainly did the right thing by not attacking that hyena. They're big and strong animals, the hyena, with incredibly powerful jaws. And one bite onto Shadow could possibly break a limb or leave her injured to a degree that she could not catch another meal. And that's why leopards will most often forego fighting with hyena. Occasionally big male leopards will show a hyena who's boss, but even that is rare. What's actually more common, which is interesting, is that leopards will be more inclined to share a kill, and I've seen footage of leopards chewing on one side of their kill and hyena on the other, rather than taking any risks. Just going to get hold of Jamie quickly and see what her plans are. Jamie for Scott.
fairly certain she will be heading back towards that buffalo kill to see what's going on, but if she doesn't want to, then I will certainly be heading there. Okay, well, I couldn't get through to Jamie, but I have got a message that she is in fact heading back there, so that's perfect that we've got that base covered. And that leaves us to drive around and see if we can find you anything else of interest. Might almost just be worth stopping for a second. You can probably hear a loud ringing sound, and that is cicadas ringing out their call. They sometimes call during the middle of the day. Isn't it fascinating what a loud noise such small insects can make? They're probably only an inch in size, but they've got incredibly good camouflage, so quite hard for us to find. We will be able to find you some at some point, but I'm not going to undergo trying to find you one now. I'd rather try and do it while we are not live and call you across once we do miraculously find one, if we do at some point. So that's the noise that you can hear as we drive through the bush. This is a good area for bush babies, so maybe we'll get lucky. So, for those of you who have just joined in, you missed out on a great sighting earlier. We had Shadow and Sandila in a tree with what I thought was a large female hyena waiting patiently below for any scraps. And Wolfgang is interested to know, how old do I think that hyena could be? Well, she looked in great shape, so I think coming into her prime, but certainly not an old lady. She looked too flawless to be an old hyena that would usually be covered in scratches and scars. So I'm guessing somewhere around 3 to 4 years of age, probably, as a rough guess, but very difficult to age animals unless, of course, they're lion or leopard, which are followed very closely and usually easy to distinguish from others. Because we do follow them so closely, or all the guides in these areas over the many years that this area has been working as a photographic safari destination, they've been able to keep tabs of the ages of those various animals, lion and leopard, but all the other animals, it's a complete thumbsuck as to how old they may be, and I could be quite easily a year off on either side of my guess. I guess it's like lining up 10 humans, Wolfgang, and trying to age them. You'll probably find, and that's our own species, that we would get it wrong a lot of the time, or at least be a couple of years off. Blustery wind is coming through all of a sudden. Now, I forgot to mention that we do have a little surprise in store for you. Our wonderful chef Tundi found a scorpion in the kitchen late this afternoon, and it's a very friendly scorpion that is easy to pick up and handle. And even though we try our best not to interfere with the animals and their lives as much as possible, when there's a scorpion in the kitchen, we kind of need to take it out of there. So I've caught it and have it with us here, and I'm just going to look for a nice home for it to release it into, away from our kitchen where it doesn't have a very sustainable future. And I'll be sure to pull that out a little bit later. I just want it to get dark before I pull it out, because I want to show it to you with a UV torch or black light, which will make it iridescent glow a beautiful green color. So that is something to look forward to. It's called an Epistocanthus asper. It's an arboreal scorpion that lives in cracks and trees. So I'm going to try and find a nice dead tree with where we can actually release it, but it's not quite dark enough for the UV torch to have its full effect, so we'll do it a little bit later on in the show. And it's actually the first type of scorpion that I ever got stung by when we were doing some scorpion research in the Sabi Sands at a camp where I used to guide many years ago, early on in my career. I was very fortunate to actually have the scorpion experts of South Africa, the guy who writes the books on our scorpions, come out and train us and teach us about all the different scorpions we got in this area. And it was out with him one night catching scorpions and examining them and learning about them that I got my first zap. It's a very mild sting if you are unlucky enough to get stung by this typically very docile and unaggressive scorpion. You'll see what I mean later. So don't be horrified if you come back from getting a drink or something to eat and you see a scorpion in my hands, because that is the plan. Come on, nocturnal critters, where are you? Possibly this windy weather is keeping the bush babies bunkered down in the cavities and trees that they sleep in. I'm feeling confident we might be able to rustle you up at least a scorpion or a chameleon or two before the end of the safari. Oh, sorry, Impala. Let's dim the lights there to try and have as least impact on that Impala's night vision as possible. I was a bit delayed, but my hands were occupied. I had to try my best to get the lights off it. And for those of you who are joining for the first time on a night drive, it's important that you understand that we will only shine the spotlights on the nocturnal predators whose eyes, or nocturnal animals rather, whose eyes can readjust to darkness far better than the daytime animals. We would hate to leave an Impala stranded, blinded from our lights. Okay, well, it is getting dark enough now, and I just need to find the right home within which to release this scorpion. I wonder if this isn't a bad option. Oh, this looks good. Just want to jump out quickly and see if I can't find any small cavities on this branch where I can knowingly release it safely into a nice home. Let me get all my toys out. Looks good. There's some good cavities within that tree. Well, I'll be able to release it knowing that it's going to have a nice home to move into. And just give me a second here to get it out the box. And I've kept it in. Okay, so here it is. It's quite poised at the moment, so I'm just going to try and get a little bit further away so Andrew can focus easily. And it's got its sting up, ready for action, but interestingly enough, I'll show you how docile it is, and I just want to calm it down a little bit. Actually no, there's no need to do that because it's in quite a nice posture. So this is its color with the normal light, and hold on a second, wait until you see what happens when I get the UV torch out. It is going to blow your mind. So there's going to be a moment of darkness. Andrew, I don't know if you want to actually kill that presenter light. Thank you.
There's still quite a lot of light coming from the front.
Oh, sorry, we haven't tried and tested this yet. Switch off again. So it's not quite dark enough yet, but look at how awesomely it iridesces with the UV spotlight. How's it looking there, Andrew?
Very nice.
Isn't that incredible, everyone? And I'm not too sure why scorpions fluoresce like this. There's a few different speculations, possibly to attract prey that's seeing UV wavelengths, or maybe to attract their mates. Now, when you look at the scorpion, the first thing that you may notice are these very, very large pincers, almost like a lobster or a crab. And when you see a scorpion with very large pincers like this and a relatively thin tail, you'll immediately be able to know that it's not a highly venomous one. So if it were to sting you, it's not going to get you into big trouble. And this is far less than a bee sting, maybe a third or a quarter of the strength of a bee sting, is according to my pain threshold. Whereas a scorpion with very thin pincers, and by thin I mean as thin as the scorpion's legs, hard to distinguish between leg and pincer, and a very thick tail, those are the ones you need to take care of. Or be cautious of, rather, not take care of. Take care not to get stung by one. But like I said, this one's very docile, and as you can see, it isn't concerned at all. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it across now to its new home. Like I said, we found it in the kitchen. It's not a perfect habitat for a scorpion, and poor old Tundi, our chef, almost had a heart attack when she saw it. So I'm going to move it off now and just show you one more view of it, just with the regular light. I mean, how bizarre is that? Absolutely awesome.
Magic.
Good, Andrew.
Nice trick, Scotty.
Very good. Well, I'm going to get it back into its new home. As you can see, it's not distressed at all, which is important. We don't want to cause animals any distress or harm when we are moving them about, but it is in the scorpion's best interest. So, there it goes, and I'm just going to leave it to find its own little cracks in this log. There's lots of different homes for it to find, and I'm sure it's going to enjoy this new change of scenery. Toodle-doo. Oh, there's some lightning out there, Andrew.
I saw it, yeah.
Did you get it?
Yeah, a bit of it at the bottom.
Awesome. Not sure if it's actually worth just focusing out there for a second, or is that going to be too tricky? Let's see if we get another flash of lightning off in the horizon. Maybe we'll get some rain tonight, much needed.
Yes, a bit there.
Did you get a little bit?
A little bit.
I was just plugging in my earpiece and missed it. Okay, well, I hope you guys enjoyed that scorpion show. We don't often get to handle animals or have a reason to handle them, so that was a good opportunity for us to show you the scorpion in all its mighty glory with that UV torch. I wonder if we can show you another interesting animal that I've just seen. Where's my torch? Let's stop here. There's actually a couple of them. I'm going to park at a very obscure angle. There we go. This is going to work well. This is called a two-spotted ground beetle. Look at how quick it is. Oh, that one's gone. Oh, they're both gone. They've both run off. There were two of them. So the creepy crawlies are out at this time of the year. And isn't it wonderful that we're going to have a whole new array of animals to talk about and show you guys. Oh, the door just opened and I nearly fell out. So remember my scorpion torch. Yeah. Very good. Interestingly enough, it wasn't only a scorpion that we saw in camp today, some more lightning. I don't know if you got that off in the distance, but there was also two snakes at the entrance to the bathroom at the DRC, the Djuma research camp, where most of the crew stay. Andrew actually spotted them and he calmly just started saying slung, 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 which is a snake in Afrikaans. Andrew isn't Afrikaans, so I'm not sure why he used Afrikaans as his go-to alarm call. And we all came running excitedly to see two harmless variegated bush snakes slithering up into a tree. Really pretty snakes, incredibly fast moving. So there was quite a lot of action in and around the camp. Okay, we're going to shoot you across to Jamie for a quick update on what's happening at the buffalo carcass, so enjoy that and we will see you shortly.
Okay, slinking. Hi guys, welcome back, and as you can see we have a rather grim view of our dead buffalo. The lioness has just been feeding on it. Let me grab my spotlight. There is another vehicle behind me, which is why I asked quickly for Scott to come across to me so that I could show this to you quickly. The lioness is there at the back. And yeah, you can hear the other vehicle approaching, so I'm going to make room for them. Just wanted to give you that brief view of the buffalo. Let's move forward so that the other vehicle can have a moment to also enjoy that view. Oh, the storm is approaching. We're definitely getting rumbles of thunder. It just has to hold off for a little bit longer. Now, Nancy, along with many others, thank you for your recommendations as to a possible solution to the smell. I know that you recommended I put some Vicks Vapor Rub under my nose. Now, I did have a search around. I know that my mother did give me some when I moved to the bush, but I honestly couldn't find it anywhere. So it is with deep regret that we sit once again with the scent of it washing over us, but worth it just for these incredible visuals like this of these beautiful cats. And of course still waiting to see if there's any hyena that are going to come through and visit this particular carcass. She really is beautiful. Now it sounds as though you had an amazing time with Scott's scorpion. Occasionally we do find the odd critter who's come to visit us in our camp. And it's very cool that we get to show them to you before we release them back into the wild. I can hear the other female feeding away. I'm not sure if Liam can get a shot. She's quite interestingly backlit there. There you go. Munching away. Look how cool that is. Highlighted by the other vehicle and spared a little bit of the gruesome view. Predators feeding in the night. Now that we've got that beautiful view of her, I'll provide a little bit of extra light so we can have a look at what she's doing. I have to be quite careful not to shine it into the eyes of the vehicle opposite us. There you go. She was originally feeding on the face, but she's moved around back to the back end, supplementing her diet of buffalo with maggots. Sorry, I'm laughing. I'm not even sure if you picked up on that sound. Well, one thing about holding a spotlight or sitting near lights in summer is that you do attract every dung beetle under the sun, and one of them just flew straight into my face. Quite a considerable plop into the side of my head. Now, we've mentioned that we don't really know how this particular buffalo died. We considered a lot of possibilities. Maybe the cold snap, maybe something to do with that, or maybe its age, possibly had a broken leg. But one of the possibilities we put forward is that it was killed by a snake bite. And Raymond, you were wondering, if it was killed by a snake bite, would it be safe to eat? And the answer is yes. First of all, those proteins could well have broken down from the snake bite, but also there's a very big difference between a venomous creature and a poisonous one. And we could, theoretically, if we were to flop down in front of me, if we were to swallow a vial full of snake venom, if we didn't have any cuts or open wounds in our mouth, theoretically our stomach acid would help us digest it and break it down completely. So I wouldn't advise it. Please don't try that at home. But in theory, yes, it would be absolutely fine. So for these lionesses, they'd probably eat around the area of the carcass. Now we're just coming to the end of our stint on the sunset safari, so I'm going to shift forward a little bit so we can have a closing view of our lioness friend. Girl. Direct the light a little bit towards her, just not straight in her eyes. And look at that stare. Oh, so full of food. Beautiful eyes. She really is a very beautiful looking girl. I'm just trying to have a look down the side of my seat for the dung beetle that flew into me. Anyway, it has reached the end of the sunset safari, and these two are still feeding on their buffalo carcass unimpeded. So from myself, a big thank you to all of you, the viewers, and of course the wildebeest for his fantastic spotting work as well as his naming of the clouds. Amazing stuff. And for now, we will leave you with this view of the lioness as she repositions herself. and we will catch up with you tomorrow on the sunrise safari.
Welcome back, everyone, and sorry to bring you into the pitch darkness, but give it a few seconds. Look at that. Look at how awesome this is. It's not easy to film, so Andrew's doing a great job getting you these bolts of lightning off to the west. And we just get, wow, I think we're in for a storm tonight. There's a chance that it could miss us. But this is absolutely awesome, and a nice electrical thunderstorm. And I think that's enough of the lightning, and we're going to bring you back to reality, but you will probably be able to still see a few shards of lightning off in the distance. And I've got one little picture here as the bolts were going off so quickly that you may not have been able to see them very easily, but there's a few bolts coming down from the clouds to the earth. And what a great way to finish off another wonderful safari with all of you guys. It's been a pleasure having you on board, even though Jamie did conduct most of the safari, and thanks to her for doing that. Sadly, the signal was an issue out on Arathusa, but didn't we get so lucky over there on Arathusa? Shadow and Sandile up that tree, absolutely beautiful. And then I eventually realized that there was a hyena on the scene, so that also made things really exciting. So sadly we did have to leave though before we would have liked to, but it is what it is, and at least we did get to see them up there. It as something that I've actually never seen in all my time. I've never seen the two of them up the same tree. I was actually looking back at photographs of young Sandile the first time I saw him. He was probably a third of the size that he is now, and he was perched up in an acacia tree where he spent 3 days hiding away from hyena. Anyway, we could talk about stories about these leopard for days, but sadly it is coming to the end of the safari, and it's time to thank all of you guys for your help and contribution. Thanks to Andrew for his great camera work, and to Jess and Nikki in the final control. I'm going to leave you guys looking out into the darkness and hopefully get you a few more lightning bolts before we say goodbye. I hope you have a wonderful day or evening wherever you may be in the world. And you could be coming back to a very wet Sabi Sands tomorrow.